Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Happy Monday. How are you feeling today? Really that good of a mood for a Monday? You must have had a good weekend. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're glad to have you here. If you're a regular on the show and you enjoy it, make sure that you click that like button, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're, I guess we're not on Twitch. I think we've got another week or so on our ban over there for saying things that you just can't say. So you're not watching us on Twitch this morning, but you might be watching us on one of our brand new free speech networks that we're streaming on this morning. Voxcast invited us this morning to join their network, and I have graciously accepted their offer. I'm streaming now today on a brand new free speech platform called Voxcast. You can watch us over there. I tweeted out the link this morning. If you'd like to support another free speech network, I'll be telling you a little bit more about that later. And of course, on Rumble as well as YouTube. YouTube, not so much a free speech network, but the ones who allow us to make a little bit of money on the stream, which is always useful. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We've got a lot of, we've got a lot of great topics and clips and guests for you, per usual. Starting at the top of the show, Elon Musk versus the woke mind virus. Bill Maher invited billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk on his program over the weekend. They had a conversation about where did the woke mind virus begin. I'll play that clip for you. Also, we'll talk a little bit about their conversation where Tucker Carlson, of course, got more views for his first response after he was fired from Fox. He got more views on Twitter than Fox News. That's interesting. We'll talk about that and a few other clips that I have from that interview. It was really good this morning. We've got Ian Howarth joining us this morning at 7:35. Barbie's ownership company, Mattel, released a version of a Barbie with Down syndrome, the first Barbie doll to have Down syndrome. And Steven Crowder was making fun of it last week, and kind of a challenging week last week for Steven Crowder. As many of you know, the news broke about him and his wife going through a pretty nasty divorce, which has exploded into a public spat with videos leaking. Candace Owens from the Daily Wire jumping on top, pile driving in, tag teaming. It's like the WWE. Well, Ian Howarth, who is a young writer and pundit from Turning Point USA, is speaking out against Steven Crowder making fun of the Down syndrome Barbie, saying that this is actually a big pro-life issue, which I thought was an interesting POV. So Ian will join us this morning at 7:30 a.m. Central. You don't want to miss that discussion. And we'll also talk to him about this story of a teen who was disqualified from a Pokemon tournament because he laughed when someone asked him what his pronouns were. Yeah, we'll talk about that. And at 7:51 this morning, I've got a great clip for you. You might have seen me post it over the weekend if you like to watch my socials at AP for Liberty. But a Indiana city councilman he's a white man, came out as an indigenous woman of color. Oh my God. And people are like giving him death threats and different things like that. I have to say, it's quite entertaining. We'll play that clip. We'll take a look at the before and after picture of his transition, which is also quite hilarious, at the end of this hour. At 8 o'clock this morning, John Miltimore joins us. We always love having John on. Our typical Monday morning. Nice to see you here. At 8 o'clock, transfer of wealth. That's right. Boomers are preparing to pass away and to transfer trillions of dollars in wealth. But are they going to give it to their kids, the millennials, or are they going to give it to their grandkids, the Zoomers? Millennials just can't get a break, it seems. We'll play that at 8 a.m. this morning. It should be interesting. And then at 8:35 today, Warren Buffett's terrible diet was a great story that I read over the weekend about how he eats McDonald's breakfast every day, drinks 3 Coca-Colas a day. And then I read another story that was perfectly in line with that about what are the absolute worst drinks overall from your health, for your health. This was an article from a nutritionist that I read over the weekend, which I thought was interesting. And if I have time, I'll get to this article as well. Sending smiley emojis. Are you an emoji sender online? Well, they now mean different things to different people. Some emojis mean something to one generation, and then some emojis mean something to a different generation. So when you send someone an emoji, you might think that it means one thing, but it actually means another. Like, hey, can you pick me up some eggplant for dinner? And the eggplant emoji. Yeah. Everybody knows what the eggplant emoji means. We'll talk about that at the end of the show if we have time. But first, let's play the clip of Elon Musk going on Bill Maher's show talking about the woke mind virus, the biggest interview over the weekend. Great get by Bill Maher. Take a listen to this.
I really can't emphasize this enough. We must protect free speech, and free speech only matters. It's only relevant when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like, because obviously, speech that you like is that's easy.
Pause for just a moment. I like that. So free speech, defending free speech only matters when you're defending the speech of someone you don't like saying something that you don't like. I remember Glenn Beck actually said something v- very similar to me when I was running for president and I went on the Glenn Beck show in 2016. He and I were talking about free speech, and Glenn said something very similarly because I think I was conveying that principle that free speech really only matters when you defend something that you don't like. And it's quite common nowadays, whether it's left or right, to see people who say, no, actually, we don't defend the free speech. Or and I even see now conservatives saying we shouldn't be defending the Second Amendment rights of leftists and liberals. And now you might say that sounds ridiculous. But ask yourself, what did Ben Shapiro say the day after the trans shooter in Nashville had shut up that Christian school? They were saying, well, person was mentally ill and therefore they shouldn't be allowed to own firearms. I mean, Dan Crenshaw of Texas, what do you think red flag laws are? And red flag laws, a lot of Republicans support those. A lot of Republicans in Missouri supported red flag laws. So defending not just the free speech of people that you disagree with, but even the Second Amendment rights of people that you disagree with is becoming less and less common. But I'm glad that Elon Musk articulated that, and Bill Maher seems to agree. So a very important, very, very important point.
So it's the thing about censorship is that, sure, for those who would advocate it, just remember, at some point, that will be turned on you.
Yes. At some point, it will be turned on you. Absolutely.
This woke mind virus, how did it start? Was it bats? Was it a escape from a lab? I mean, what is your assessment of what? Because it's fairly recent. How did it start and why?
I was trying to figure out where it's coming from. I think it's actually been a long time brewing.
Yes.
And that
it has been a long time.
I think it's been going on for a while.
Decades.
The amount of indoctrination that's happening in schools and universities is, I think, far beyond what parents realize.
Oh boy, wow. If you didn't think this guy was one of us before, I mean, are there legitimate criticisms of Elon Musk? Absolutely. But I still think he's one of us. Maybe he's not a real libertarian, right? Because he voted for not Joe Biden, but he voted for Donald Trump. I think in this last election, he voted all Republican, but then he voted for, who was it? Hillary Clinton before in 2016? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, he's voted for Democrats. Andrew Yang, I think he supported. I can't remember. You guys remember Andrew Yang? But yeah, Andy Opperman over in the live stream says the woke mind virus came from academia. Yeah, absolutely. If you like the show and you're enjoying it this morning, make sure you click that like button. You can text us in if you want to have your opinion heard and read on air. You can text us for free at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We love to hear from our listeners on the show this morning. We're glad to have you here today with us. Make sure that you are tuned in to us on any of our major networks that we're streaming on. And don't forget, we are streaming on a brand new network this morning. If you want to support a new free speech network, Boxcast, I tweeted the link to that this morning if you want to go check that out. It's a new free speech network, and we're trying to help right-leaning conservatives and libertarians help start up their own social networks. All right, so let's continue this right here.
And I sort of came to realize this somewhat late. The experience that we had in high school and college is not the experience that kids today are having, and hasn't been for, I don't know, 10 years, maybe 20 years. So
yeah, I can say that's true. I mean, I didn't experience that kind of virulent leftism when I graduated from college at a liberal public university, and I got a liberal arts degree plus a musical theater degree. I basically double majored. So I had to get not only my musical theater degree, but I also had to get a bachelor's in liberal arts. So you would think that I would have been exposed to that if that was there at the time. But I graduated in winter of 2003, and so I don't remember any of this kind of woke stuff then. So it's been what, 20 years. It must have really started right after that. I don't know. Did you go to college after that? Did you experience any of this? I'd be curious to hear from the audience. Let us know when you graduated from college and if you, or maybe you're still in college and if you're experiencing this, but tell me, did you experience wokeism in academia when you were there?
So,
Aren't parents themselves also a big part of the problem? They,
well, I suppose in some cases that parents, but I think like the parents are just generally not aware of what their kids are being taught, or what they're not being taught.
but they're letting the kids think that they're equal.
I mean, yeah. Let me give you an example.
That one really triggered the laugh too, and because I was reading this morning, a lot of people. I didn't show the very first part of the interview, and I will say that it did seem like there was a little bit of butt kissing that was going on at the very beginning of this interview for a couple of minutes, and because Steffi and I were watching the interview over the weekend, we were kind of like, "Come on, come on, come on, get to the questions, get to the point." And of course, he's getting just beat over the head by the left for this interview. But what Bill Maher said right there, let's back it up for just a moment. That really triggered the left, which is interesting. Let's listen to that again and analyze.
Parents are just generally not aware of what their kids are being taught, or what they're not being taught.
But they're letting the kids think that they're equal.
I mean, yeah.
They're letting their kids think that they're equal, and they implied that Bill Maher was suggesting that that wasn't a good thing. But
Let me give you an example that a friend of mine told me, which his daughters go to college go to high school in the Bay Area, and he was asking them like, well, so who are the first few presidents of the United States? They could name Washington, and I said, well, what do you know about him? Well, he was a slave owner. What else?
Right. Exactly.
Nothing.
Right.
I'm like, okay, maybe you should know more than that. Yeah.
yeah, maybe.
And that
Thank
is the
you.
woke
Yeah, and I'm glad the audience applauds. Although I have a sneaking suspicion because Bill Maher tapes his show in Los Angeles, and it's probably really hard to find people who agree with him in Los Angeles. I have a sneaking suspicion because I've been watching Bill's show more and more these days because he's been seemingly taking the red pill and waking up. But my sneaking suspicion is that he's got plants in his audience. Probably his producers are sitting out there and are, because you can hear the velocity. What is it? Veracity? There we go. The veracity of the clapping. It has to, because there's a pause there. I think the audience, if they allow an audience, I don't even know what their audience situation is, but it's probably people that are working on the show, encouraging people to clap.
Maybe
Let's hear.
you should know more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. That is.
Hear that? Hear that? Pop, 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 pop. That loud clapping and stuff like that. That's probably a producer out there because I guarantee you the Los Angeles audiences aren't liking that message. Let's continue on with another with their discussion about woke mind virus and indoctrination in schools.
So I think a lot of people thought when you bought Twitter that this is kind of an outlier. Like, what doesn't fit with these other things you're doing? I never thought that. Because I think you're dealing with big civilizational issues and problems, and I was right on your page. I think Twitter is one of them. I mean, you have talked about this woke mind virus.
Yes.
In really apocalyptic terms.
Yeah.
You should explain why you don't think it's hyperbole to say things like it's pushing civilization towards suicide. First of all, what is the woke mind virus? And if we don't deal with this, nothing else can get done. Tell me why you think that.
Yeah. So. I think we need to be very cautious about anything that is anti-meritocratic, and anything that is that results in the suppression of free speech. So, those are two of the aspects of the woke mind virus that I think are very dangerous.
Very good explanation, especially because what was it, just a month ago, a lot of the big headlines were attacking people. The were attacking conservatives for saying that they couldn't define what wokeism is, and I think Elon's explanation there was very good. Are you enjoying the show so far this morning? Good morning to all of our friends. especially Anna Marie, Maria Krabs, Quest Fanning, all of our friends over on YouTube. It's nice to see you here this morning. If you're enjoying the show this morning and you're enjoying watching it in big, beautiful, high definition, guess what? Internet is working today. It's working. It's working. Anakin Skywalker, GIF. Yeah, actually, we have a full-blown fast internet speed connection connected directly to the computer today, and it's working. For the love of God, it's working. I say that, knock on wood. Hopefully things won't break down here. But if you're enjoying this in full high definition right now and enjoying the fact that we're not having skips or stops or problems or drops, well, you can do me a favor. Make sure you click that like button over there on the stream. Help us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. I mean, I'll tell you, we've been struggling with slow internet and internet problems for months. So people who've been watching the show a lot know what a big problem it is. Stream works great. Now let's work on your attire. Boo! Todd in Minnesota. What's wrong with my clothes? I think my clothes are quite attractive. My wife thinks I'm cute, and that's all that matters. Good morning, Todd in Minnesota, as well as Kermode Bear joining us over on Rumble. Make sure you drop a like and a comment over on Rumble as well. We appreciate you very much. Studio 314 says, good morning and thank God for high-speed interwebs. Absolutely. Sorry, I just got to keep applauding it because I was ripping my hair out for months trying to get that all fixed. So we finally did. We got a techie in here on Friday, and they fixed it for us. Anna Marie over in the live stream was talking about when she graduated from high school in the woke mind virus. She says, I graduated high school in 2011, and there was a lot of wokeism, just not to the extent that it is now. I was kicked out in the hallway a lot for just asking questions, not even excessively. That actually happened to me when I was in church. I was asking too many questions about the Bible. When I was a senior in high school, I was in Sunday school, and I think by that time I was kind of like ready to leave the church because I had too many questions, and the pastor came into my Sunday school class to kind of like, put me in my place and stuff like that. And we had a kind of a battle of the minds. And after that, I never went. I think that was the last time I officially went. But I thought this was an interesting little part of this clip as well on a similar note.
You and I are both like in that little group of people, maybe it's a bigger group now, who are called conservative, who haven't really changed. I don't think of you as a conservative.
I think of myself as a moderate.
He thinks of himself as a moderate, but I just don't understand why Elon Musk hasn't uttered the word libertarian, because he strikes me much more as one of us. It doesn't strike me as a conservative. He doesn't strike me as a leftist, right? Maybe a soft liberal, maybe a classical liberal, if you will. But
I mean, I've spent a massive amount of my life energy building sustainable energy, electric vehicles and batteries and solar and stuff to help save the environment. That's not a, it's not exactly far right. Slavery is obviously a horrific institution, but we should still know more about George Washington than that.
And by the way, one that was practiced all over the world forever, since the beginning of time, by every race, including people of color. I'm sorry to tell you that. It's huge in the Bible.
Absolutely. So
Bible loves it.
We're
really?
How
dare you?
Like, don't take someone else's slave and that kind of thing.
Right, but no one ever says just don't do it.
They don't. At no point does it say slavery is bad in the Bible.
No.
They didn't.
Okay, all right. I don't want to offend you guys too much this morning. A little early for that to get the offense train going. Let's continue on here.
Is that it's often anti-meritocratic. You can't question things.
When he's talking about here, they're defining the woke mind virus, and he says anti-meritocratic, which I actually think is a very good definition of it. That merit doesn't matter. It's the participation trophy mindset, right? It doesn't matter how good you are at something. We're all going to cut everybody else off at the knees to make them, to make anybody who's good, we're going to bring them down to your level. It's very much like an Ayn Rand novel. I've always said that it feels as if we are living in The Fountainhead or Ayn Rand's dystopian future that she cooked up in Atlas Shrugged, which if you haven't read, I highly recommend. People talk crap about it, even libertarians. I think it's a brilliant book. Austin was unpasteurized, says Quest Fanning. Darn it, I've got to go to a commercial break. I don't want to, but the reason why I have to go to a commercial break is because I got to go get Ian Howarth. Ian Howarth from Turning Point USA is going to join us. Steven Crowder made fun of the Down syndrome Barbie doll And Ian Howarth thought that was despicable. Stephen just can't catch a break these days. But we'll hear from Ian when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Today is the 1st. Hope you paid your rent or your mortgage today. Go landlords. All right, well, Steven Crowder seems to be in a hole, and he's decided he's going to continue to keep digging. Last week we talked about the acrimonious divorce and the news that, well, he's not really all that polite to his wife, apparently, and when they're in private. Of course, yes, people can say that video was taken out of context, but I don't know. Would you blow cigar smoke in your pregnant wife's face and tell her to go get you steaks and pellets and things like that? I don't think so. But we sort of beat that horse to death, and let's just let the horse lie. Well, actually, no, maybe we need to beat that horse a little bit more, but I'll bring somebody else to do the beating. Ian Howarth, Turning Point USA, joining us this morning. Good morning, Ian. Thanks so much for getting up early today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm celebrating spring with my get up today, so hopefully it's not too sunny for this early, but we're good to go.
This show is all about bright and sunny and happy and peppy and all kinds of wild shirts. So you're dressed appropriately this morning,
Good.
Ian. Glad to have you here today. Steven Crowder. Now, the reason why I brought you on here today is because he had kind of made some jokes about Mattel's announcement that they were going to be making a Down syndrome Barbie. But before we get into the specifics of that and why I think it matters for policy issues, and you articulated them well on Newsmax last week, is I guess we should probably just pick up where you and I were discussing during the break, is that Steven just seems to be in a hole and he continues to keep digging. Is it time to stop?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hopefully most of us wouldn't be in the kind of hole that he's in. But I think the ultimate lesson in life is that if things start to go wrong, it's the best time to pump the brakes. It's like when your car starts to rear end and people try and accelerate out of it. No, like calm down, let things settle, then you can maintain control. I think you see this with a lot of narcissists, a lot of people in media. You know, there's a huge overlap between those two groups where people try and power themselves out of issues, and it never goes well. I think a lot of these people have a lot of skeletons in the closet, and then when you, again, pump rather than pumping the brakes, you're pounding the gas pedal, things go badly.
Do you think there's anything to some of the accusations from the left and even some libertarians who say that this is just kind of like part and parcel of the conservative hypocrisy on marriage, the sort of lecturing and talking down to the rest of us about how great marriage is and sticking together and for the kids and different things like that, and then in the reality they all have the same problems as the rest of us?
Yeah, I think two things can be true at once. I think there's a vein throughout conservatism where marriage is important and is viewed as the goal. I think that's mostly true. But I also think a lot of people like to whitewash it as overly simplistic of marriage is always good. I think I have seen some conservative commentators speak about the difficulties of marriage, and I think that's an equally important conversation to have. But when you have people who just, as I said, dilute it to the point that marriage is good, not marriage is bad, and there's no in between, I think the fact is that marriage involves commitment and struggle and difficulty. That is kind of the value in a way, is that you're committing someone through bad times as well as good. And I think quite often people don't like to talk about that. And a lot of that is pandering to an audience who, again, want to be told what they want to hear. And I think that's a problem throughout media on the left, right, and the middle.
Probably narcissists shouldn't get married, right? Or if you're an extremely selfish person, then it's probably not a good idea for you to have kids. Not everybody should have kids. It's a good thing overall in general, but I mean, it's kind of like, do I want everybody, should everybody be allowed to own a howitzer? Sure. But is it a good idea for everybody to own a howitzer? Maybe not. Just because I'm not in favor of red flag laws doesn't mean I'm necessarily comfortable with a psychopath in town having a howitzer, right? So it's the ought to versus should versus good. It's a difficult conversation. I'm glad that, you and I can have it this morning and reasonably and well. But I think the big story, and the one I brought you on here with, was I didn't know how to react when I saw that Mattel had decided to release a Down syndrome Barbie. I mean, I didn't really care because I don't play with dolls, so I didn't really think about it. But he decided to make it a segment on his show where he was sort of making fun of it
Mhm.
and using an derogatory word. I'll tell you this, sometimes I say the word retarded and it doesn't mean anything mean against people who have actual Down syndrome. I'm usually referring to someone from the left who's trying to take my guns for whatever reason, but specifically he was actually attacking
Mhm.
this initiative, and you thought that was a bad move. Why?
Yeah, I think it's a bad move because if we actually care about pushing conservative ideals, and I think pro-life ideals is one of those, then I think cheap and derogatory and also not amusing jokes about something that's actually a pro-life win, I don't think is particularly productive. I have an issue sometimes more generally with the idea that you can oscillate between being a comedian and being a commentator. And I think people use that as an excuse to get away with not being particularly good at either. I think if you say things that aren't particularly funny, then you just say, "Oh, I'm making a commentary point." And then if you say something that's completely counterproductive to your so-called political movement, then you just say, "Oh, I'm just joking." And I think people like Steven Crowder, but the entire of late night TV does this exact same thing of oscillating between the two. But when we talk about something like the pro-life movement, which is supposedly one of Stephen Crowder's central views, is that abortion is wrong, and then you look at Down syndrome people who are the targets of a really eugenics obsessed pro-abortion movement in which they should just be all murdered in the womb. I think something like a Down syndrome Barbie is an obvious massive pro-life win. And so if you're going to joke about it, one, be funnier than that. Don't just be a bunch of like teenage boys talking about retard strength. That's not funny. You can't hide behind comedy if you're not being funny. And then when you're damaging the movement by embracing their entire view of Down syndrome people, I don't think it's particularly helpful, and I don't think it's particularly conservative.
If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're enjoying the commentary that you're hearing, make sure you click that like button on any of the social networks that we are streaming on, and we are on multiple today. We're glad to have all of our friends and followers over on Rumble, YouTube, used to be on Twitch until we got banned, Boxcast, as well as on Facebook. Thanks so much for joining us here, and drop a comment as well. We'd love to have you introduce yourself. I'm speaking to Ian Howarth, Turning Point USA ambassador, a little bit about comments that Steven Crowder had made regarding a Down syndrome version of a Barbie. Now, in regards to the question of it being a pro-life initiative and how explain to us how you think this sort of plays into the left.
Yeah, I don't. One, I don't think it was a pro-life initiative. I don't think that was their intention. But
Mm-hmm.
whether it was their intention or not, I think it humanizes a group of people who are actively dehumanized by the pro-abortion crowd. I think by introducing a Down syndrome doll to children, one for Down syndrome children, but also for children who don't have Down syndrome, it makes the humanity of Down syndrome people very apparent to them in a way that if they are just hidden from society, then I think their removal from society is far easier, because I think the strength of the abortion movement lies in the shadows. It lies in the ridiculous privacy notion that you should be allowed to kill your unborn baby as long as no one really knows about it. And so I think by putting a face on the issue in the form of a doll, it's obviously not going to win the debate entirely, but I think it's one very important step. My issue as well is that a lot of conservatives have this almost reflex reaction to anything is, oh, it's all about diversity and inclusion initiatives. Some diversity is good, some is bad. I think that's the problem, is that everything is just a yes or no, increasingly for people on the right, where you have to react. If a corporation does something, it must be bad. If you have an opportunity to attack a corporation, you must do it. Some things corporations do are good, some things are bad. It's all about addressing each of those in isolation, actually making a cogent, thoughtful decision. And so I think this was just an opportunity to attack a corporation, get a cheap laugh, and I think completely undermines our entire narrative on abortion.
Now that is top-notch commentary, and you don't get it many other places unless, of course, you're watching Ian Howarth on another show, which he does do from time to time. I like that, Ian, because I made a similar point over the weekend where when I tweeted, and quite an unpopular tweet, didn't get very many likes, retweets, or responses, but typically the things that are the piercing truths are the least people want to engage with. At least I believe so. That's my excuse for whenever I drop a bad tweet. But I tweeted that sometimes some things are just not everything that is gay is woke. Sometimes it's just gay, right? There's a kind of reflective, or what do you call this? Reflexive act where anytime a gay person says or does anything, well, then this is injecting wokeness into it, right? Now, perhaps Dylan Mulvaney on the Bud Light can, pushed by this leftist activist who was a marketing director, was an act of wokeness. But not everything that's gay is woke, and not everything that a corporation does is woke either. Am I right?
Yeah, I would say again, we just need to make decisions based on one, the intention behind it, because sometimes corporations screw up, and also being very specific about who made that decision. Because I think sometimes a lot of companies, to use an example, I think I'm more knowledgeable about in big tech. I worked at Facebook for 4 years. I worked in tech for 8 years. Quite often people assume that it's the CEO who's this evil mastermind puppeteer who's controlling a lot of these industries and these companies for their own nefarious gains. Most of the time, they are focused on either pushing their product or making money. And a lot of the times, it's actually this rotten core of people in the middle who, say, used to be Democratic Party operatives who come into communications and policy positions at Facebook and then try and change things that way. Quite often, the CEO gets all of the hatred and all of the focus. And these people, again, can just recede into the shadows and actually have a lot of influence. And I think the same is true of big American corporations. If we look at the Bud Light situation, it wasn't the CEO of Bud Light deciding we must put Dylan Mulvaney on a can. It was probably a left-wing marketing person who really went, I think, beyond their job description and lost them a lot of money in the process. And so I think we need to be focusing on why people are pushing Dylan Mulvaney so much, why he has become the face of this issue, rather than making it about Dylan Mulvaney specifically or about the CEO of Bud Light. I think we need to be very specific with our criticisms, because otherwise we fall into the issue that you raise, which is just anything involving a transgender person, anything involving a gay person is bad. Well, then we need to explain why it's bad. Are we upset because it involves a gay person, or are we upset because it's pushing an ideology? And I think we need to be very, very careful to be specific.
Well, you see, like, and not being a quote unquote conservative, right? Being an open libertarian such as I am, I don't, I won't say it's not my circus, not my monkeys, because as a member of the Republican Party, what the conservatives do does concern me to an extent. But the conservative movement is very much split on the gay issue, trans issue, right? Because another one of my tweets that I thought people was a banger, but people didn't want to engage with, was asking the question about whether it had been Blair White on the Bud Light can versus Dylan Mulvaney, if the response would have been the same level of outrage. So can you answer that for me, Ian? If it had been a conservative trans influencer, do you think there would have been as much pushback?
Oh, absolutely not. I think Dylan Mulvaney is the boogeyman, almost quite literally, of this issue. I think it does raise an interesting debate, though, about the actual visuals of the transgender community. Of if someone is obviously a man, I think they tend to get a lot more scorn than someone who is not quite as obvious. I think that raises an actual interesting debate that we certainly don't have time for here. But in terms of if you can get away with it, are people accepted? Because I know there are a lot of transgender people who aren't obviously a man or obviously a woman. And so then they go into bathrooms and no one particularly cares. It's when, the 6'4", 300-pound guy with hair on his knuckles wanders into a child's bathroom that people tend to have an issue. And I think that
No, you're right.
raises...
You're right, Ian. But let's engage with this for just a moment. I know we don't have time for this. We could talk about it all morning, but I mean, isn't it really that there are some conservatives? I mean, isn't the true conservative position to be against homosexuality, to be against men dressing in dresses? And I mean, isn't that really a difference between people who are conservatives versus people who are really just, maybe you're just closeted libertarians and you're not willing to admit it when it comes to that issue? Because the true conservative position, in my understanding, social conservatism, is to be very much against homosexuality. I mean, it wouldn't matter who was on the Bud Light can, if it was a conservative transgender or a right, conservatives should reject the idea that a transgender person could be conservative to an extent. Am I barking up the wrong tree here, Ian?
I think yes and no. I think for some social conservatives who have it rooted in like a religious basis, I think often they come down on the view that homosexuality is wrong. I think you also have some social conservatives who have almost like stuck the flag in the timeline of where they want to stop slightly further down the road, as to the point that they don't care as much about those issues as long as it's not shoved down their face. As you raised before, that's essentially what the libertarian perspective is, of if it doesn't affect me personally, it's not as big a deal. I also think, though, there are some almost pragmatic elements of it where people have different areas of the conservative movement they care about more or less. And so if that involves turning a blind eye or even embracing certain elements that they might not like to actually achieve other goals, that's just the nature of politics, that people can't get every single thing that they want. I also think that for me personally, I think I realistically do come down on the libertarian perspective a little more on these issues. For me, the divide is usually between adults and children is where I first draw the line. I think if we've got
I'm with
adults,
you on that.
yeah,
100%, 100%. Ian, that's why we like him. Give an applause. He said that with like a little bit lower decibel level than his usual strident tone. But if you're enjoying that commentary and you like what Ian's saying, make sure you smash that like button. We appreciate it very much. One last thing before I let you go here. One last topic, Ian. We've punched right enough this morning. Let's look to the left. Pokemon tournament. A young man who was playing in a Pokemon tournament got kicked out because he giggled when somebody asked him what his pronouns were. Did you read this story?
I did, yes.
What are your thoughts?
I think it's the ultimate proof of what I've written before is that the transgender ideology has become a new religion for the left. It's like giggling in church, the kind of reaction you would get. And I think it's the ultimate extension of when you bully people into submission, when you shame people into submission, you get this kind of thing where if someone has even the most mild response that's in their eyes slightly inappropriate, you must be cast out. You must punish people in a Pokemon tournament of all things. It wasn't like this was a political debate or a professional environment. This was a game of people fighting each other with imaginary characters. Like this is not the most serious environment of all time. But I think it's the ultimate extension of just squeezing people out who don't adhere to even the most minor elements of your ideology. And for a lot of people who aren't engaged in a political fight like we are, a lot of people who are at least more active politically, most people will just give in and just do what they're told because they don't want to fight every day. Most people want the path of least resistance. And unfortunately, the path of least resistance is increasingly doing exactly what they want.
Ian Howarth, tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days and where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me online. All my social media is IGHAWORTH. You can check out my Substack. I write a column for the Washington Examiner and the New York Post. I'm also a speaker with Young America's Foundation and TPUSA. Just wrapped up a bunch of speeches for spring, but in the summer and the fall, hopefully those will be sparking up again. So if you're ever nearby, I'd love to see some people come out and watch.
Great stuff, Ian. Great commentary. Thanks so much for getting up so early and joining us on the Wake Up America show this morning. We appreciate you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Have a great day. What did you think of
Want
Ian
an engaging
Howarth?
website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me Pops build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How are you feeling on a Monday? Good, good. Glad everybody's in a good mood today. Nice to see you here. All of our friends over on Rumble watching right now. Good to see you, Todd, Minnesota. Nelson65, Blutreich. Good to see you again. Jawohl. And all of our friends, of course, over on YouTube, like 314, Studio 314, Barney Styles, Rare Camellia, Maria Krabs, Andy Opperman. Hey, Duke. Good to see you all here today. I see you guys are arguing about marriage licenses in the chat. Sounds like fun. Glad to have you here. We're also streaming today on Boxcast, a new free speech network that invited us to stream our show over there, and we are doing that today to help support people who believe in freedom, as well as our friends on Facebook as well. All right, let's get the show on the road. All right, Indiana City Councilman has decided to come out as his true identity. Well, and he's getting death threats over it, but shouldn't he be allowed the same space to explore who he is as the people who are disagreeing with him? A Republican Indiana City Councilman. Let's take a look at this news report.
Thank you. Now moving on, IT-Made, as a Delaware County councilman is coming out as transgender and a woman of color. Delaware County Councilman Ryan Webb announced that he now identifies as an Indian American woman. Since that announcement, he's received some support, but a lot of backlash, many calling him childish, despicable, even calling for things like execution. In a statement Webb gave to IT-Made, he says, quote, "It is unfortunate that I cannot simply be given the same space and respect to explore my identity that so many of those targeting me demand for themselves. Yeah. It's possible I may change my mind down the road. Right. The process of identity exploration is complex, and oftentimes at the end of our personal journey, we end right back where we started." Webb goes on to tell IT-Mate this is just his true, authentic self.
New on daybreak, 50 to 100 homes are damaged.
I love it! I love it! Yes! Dude, finally. I'm so glad that he's doing this. Honestly, it's great. It's great. It's great. Hold on. The best part is that the producer, if you're watching us live versus listening to us later, good morning to my beautiful wife, Stephanie. Nice to see you, lady. My lovely lady. My lady love. Glad to have you here. All right. So the best part of this news report is some producer who created this actually took the time to make this dual heads up on the video. Hold on. Let's see if I can pause it at just the right moment here. Because here's the thing. They show the before and after. There it is. Look at this. This is the before and after. So here he is, the Indiana councilman. They call him a councilman, but I really feel like that's bigoted and transphobic. Boom. Because he's a woman of color. You should respect him and his pronouns. Indiana councilman comes out as woman of color. Indiana council woman, please. Thank you. We appreciate you very much. This is America, after all.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him...
Thank you, Mr. President. Exactly. Before and after. Now, just remember that this was a producer at the Channel 8 station who made this little heads up right there. Before, after. Oh my God, this is good stuff this morning. What, Studio 314, what are you from, Indiana, my man? It must be your local television station there. You need to get in touch with this Indiana councilwoman and support her in her push to be understood for her identity. I think it's really an interesting.
To ITV, he says, quote, "It is unfortunate that I cannot simply be given the same space and respect to explore my identity that so many of those targeting me demand for themselves. It's possible I may change my mind down the road. The process of identity exploration is complete.
It's possible I may change my mind down the road." So then he can, if he wishes, he could re-identify as a white man. But honestly, I feel like it's much better. And he should probably go ahead. Ryan, you might want to change your name because, I mean, we don't want to dead name him. I wonder what his Indian woman of color should be. And also, we didn't find out, is it Dot or Feather? Are we talking about Indian woman of color? Are we talking about Elizabeth Warren Indian? Or are we talking about curry, tasty, hot sauce, white sauce, kosher halal? Studio 304. If you do buy him a beer, tell him that Austin Peterson over in Missouri says hi, and that really appreciate the troll, my man. But if it's not a troll and you really are an Indian woman of color, then you know what? That's fine. You can identify as what you want in this country. And as I am not a bigoted man, I support. He's fully adult. So if he wishes to transition to an Indian woman of color, I guess them's the rules. And we're going to follow him. All right. Okay, boomers. Careful how you say that these days. They're about to pass away and transfer trillions of dollars of wealth. But which generation will be the beneficiaries? Are they going to transfer it to their kids, the millennials? Or are they just going to skip the millennials and give it straight to Generation Z? Yeah, we'll talk about that with John Miltimore when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
To the Cantina crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter, and I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government. Get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Okay, boomers. No, you might want to be careful about using the phrase, okay, boomers these days, because, well, they're about to transfer their wealth. But which generation will be the beneficiaries, and how much wealth is about to be transferred? We'll talk to that. But for a man who knows a thing or two about economics, at least he ought to. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education, John Miltimore, and he's joining us now. Good morning, John. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, AP. How you doing?
Doing good, sir. Thanks so much for joining us. So, nobody's looking forward to their parents or their grandparents dying, John. Maybe some sick or twisted or sadistic people are, but the reality is that as one generation ages out, another generation comes up, and there's been a lot of conversations in the last several decades about how my generation, maybe your generation, your Gen X, right, a little bit older than I am. I'm like the geriatric millennial. Well, there's been a lot of talk about how my generation specifically has been cut out of home ownership, out of good job markets, and being able to afford a lot of the things that the boomer generation has. But I mean, at the end of the day, when they're gone, somebody's going to inherit all this wealth. What's your take on this story?
Yeah, I read the research in that Newsweek article that we were talking about. I think a lot of it's overblown. Like there is a lot of these cross-generational comparisons happen. I just retweeted some research. A guy who's done some stuff on this is Jeremy Horpdahl. I don't know if you know Jeremy. He's kind of a free market guy, kind of not. We mostly just fight with each other on Twitter. But he has done some really good stuff on this front, showing like there's a myth, I think, that millennials at this point in their lives are far more poor than Gen X and boomers. And he's had a bunch of different charts. I retweeted one showing that that's simply not true. Like millennials are tracking very, very closely with both Gen X and baby boomers. Now, is it true that baby boomers have a lot of wealth that's going to be passing hands? Yeah, that is true. If you read that article, they kept inferring how government can get their hands on it, or how it can be used by millennials to take the country in a more liberal/democratic direction. And where that wealth goes, it's going to be up to people. First, I do agree with that, like that implicit in the article. There's probably not going to be as much wealth there as people think, because as people get older, they're going to be drawing down on that. They're going to be using it for healthcare, for long-term care, and all these things. So that pie is going to shrink. But yeah, there will be a lot of money passing hands here eventually. I don't think it's going to really be a game changer as far as, and even the article infers this, like as far as changing inequality, or making millennials some sort of political powerhouse. I'm skeptical of that as well.
Boy, that's an interesting POV. If you're liking what you're hearing so far, make sure that you click that like button on whichever network that you're watching us. And I'd like to ask a favor specifically to all of our friends who are watching us this morning over on Rumble. I saw our friend Cries of Treason stumbled in and said that it's her first time watching. Love you all so far. Have to run out the door for work. Definitely going to finish watching later today. Great. Thank you, Cries of Treason. And thank you to all of our viewers over on Rumble. If you're watching us and enjoying it, make sure you not only click that like button, but subscribe to my channel on Rumble. One of the best things about my day is as I'm going throughout the days, I get the updates from Rumble that says some such and such has subscribed to you on Rumble, such and such has subscribed on Rumble, and I'm just continually growing up my audience over there. It's been really exciting to see. One of the things, though, John, I'm not sure if you said it, at least I didn't hear you say it, is the big challenge that millennials are facing is the question of crushing student loan debt. Isn't that a major concern for this generation?
I think if you ask them, it is a concern, and I get it, right? Like college has gotten really expensive. I don't think it's a good enough, a great bargain for people today. It is for some, right? But this mindset where everybody has to go to college right away, and that's the only way to succeed. I really think that is viewpoint is shifting, and I think that's a good thing. I think a lot of people went to college. I did my fair share of college, both undergraduate and graduate school. Um, it can be really good. I don't want to dismiss college, but it's not the only way to succeed in this country, especially when come out with $60,000 in debt for, let's face it, for an education these days, that's not that great. In college, a lot of students are studying beer drinking, more than academics these days. So I get it. If you took out a bundle of money, to go to school, um, you know, maybe that's good. What you need to do is have job skills when you come out so you can start paying that back. But this whole like, oh, student debt is too high, so we need, government to come and absolve that debt. It's a really crazy viewpoint. I don't think people fully appreciate the moral hazard in doing something like that. This is, like, do we have a problem with student loan debt? Yeah, like I really think it needs to um, be addressed, but you don't address something like that by simply saying like you're not going to be responsible for the loans you took out.
You're just tuning into the show. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. My guest here is John Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. We're talking a little bit about millennials inheriting wealth. And one of the things in this article I thought was interesting, John, was it says recent forecasts expect Social Security's trust funds to be depleted by 2033. That's, just 10 years from now, more or less the same years when millennials are expected to inherit their parents' wealth. He says a lack of action from Congress to reform the U.S. pension system by raising taxes or cutting social benefits, for example, would likely impact millennials more than any other generation in the next decades. What do you think about the whole question of, getting Social Security? As somebody, about my age, I always kind of just assumed that I wasn't going to get it, John. But do you think they'll just raise taxes like they always do?
Yeah, how we address this, I've thought about, quite a bit over the last few years. What are they going to do about this? Because they will have to do something. I do think they want to keep Social Security, and they want to keep it for a reason. It's sort of like one of the things that people feel like we need government because of it, right? Like this is one of the things, keeping Social Security kind of it's part of the glue of the United States. And so what I think we're going to see is we're going to see the cap on income will probably, right now, like that the cap on what you're being taxed for Social Security stops at, I don't know if it's 135,000, whatever. You're probably going to see that go away. You're probably going to see some curtailing of benefits. You're going to see all these different things, but what's that going to do? It's going to give you another 20 years or something. It's going to extend it, but the long term, this is, I remember, you probably remember as well, Rick Perry got hammered for calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme a number of years ago. But there is something very Ponzi-like about the way Social Security is set up. Any private company that set up a retirement system like Social Security, they'd be in jail, right? Because they're not, it's not set up like a retirement system at all. They're just going to keep wringing more from younger taxpayers. The benefits are keep ballooning. So, I think we'll do something in 2030, runs around 2033, whenever like they're going to do some stuff to fix this temporarily, but long term, the picture is pretty serious.
John, I was reading your article at fee.org over the weekend where you were giving financial tips that you'd give your 18-year-old self. And man, I wish I had taken that advice when I was 18. Obviously, we discussed student loans. I didn't, did I have a job in college? I can't remember. I don't think I did actually, but probably not a bad idea to have a good job while you're in college if you can. But the one that really struck me the most here was saying, don't buy the dip in a bear market. Man, if I had a Bitcoin for every time a libertarian told me to buy the dip, whenever Bitcoin dipped, I'd have no money.
It's one of those things. I think a lot of people learned this one the hard way over the last couple of years, right? Like you saw markets doing these crazy things. People thought they were getting a bargain on some of these stocks. Like, oh, it was trading at $200. No, I'm buying it at 40. And you forget, like, that's really not a strategy for investing. Especially if you're not doing your homework on some of these things. Financial markets, it's one of those things I've done it at times, right? You get excited. You need to develop like the psychology of good psychology for trading. Like otherwise you get really sucked into these things. And I think the only way to really get that is being hands-on. So if I was young, I'd go back and just when you're 18, just start dabbling, right? Don't get too wound up. Just start investing. Don't watch it every day. But that's the way to do it. And yeah, like there's a few things on that list, right? Like as you get older, you learn from your mistakes. But I tell people you don't have to make the mistakes I did. Learn this stuff when you're young, and you're going to put yourself in a much better position down the road.
The one thing that you had on the list that I definitely didn't like, and I didn't appreciate this advice, and I wish you'd take it back right now, as a matter of fact, is to drink less.
I knew you're going there. No, it's one, and I make it clear in there. I'm not moralizing. I say this because I like alcohol. I was out at a board meeting for a nonprofit group last night, and a bunch of us stayed a little late having a few. So I'm not saying I follow that, but it was one of those things that came up on several of these different financial advice books and YouTube clips and so forth. And I look back. I did have a job in college almost always, or especially undergrad, because all my buddies were working. So we all got jobs, working in the restaurant business. But we spent a ton of money in taverns, right? You'd go work a bunch and then you go blow it in bars. And I'm not saying don't have fun, but say like just make sure you're taking some of that, and it's not all going for shots on weekends and all that stuff. Like
I didn't see
could be a
anything
huge
in
money
there
hole.
about how to save money and still have fun, about how to like sneak flasks into games or anything like that. I there's a lot of tips that you missed out on. Things like, you can buy those canes that are like they're empty in the middle, then you just like take a sip out of the cup that's in the end of the cane. I mean, there's lots of ways to save money on alcohol. So I got to say, you really dropped the ball on that one, I would say, John.
Can you get me one of those canes?
Yeah, you just
I
got to
I,
fake.
I, I wouldn't
Got to
mind
fake
having
a
one of
limp.
those.
John, one last thing before you go here today. I read another article that you wrote over at Fee. My wife and I went and saw the Super Mario Brothers movie last week, and it was a fun kids movie, and obviously it was a kids movie, and there was some nostalgia in there. But you seem to kind of focus on the whole. It was an anti-woke movie, and you said no and yes. Why?
No, it was what we saw that movie a couple of weeks ago, and that was sort of everyone was talking about it, right? Like, and the reason I should point out the reason that became a point of discussion with people is because they were trying to say it's not inclusive enough, so you should boycott the movie, and that's how it kind of got tagged this way. And my point is, like, I'm with you. It was just a fun movie to go to, like, and it had a great soundtrack. It wasn't the best movie. This isn't, um, Chinatown, the script. It's just a fun little kids movie. But it was like the only way you can describe it is anti-woke. It didn't do anything like they're trying to do. Like the princess is still just a white girl. And they're, Mario
Right.
and Luigi aren't gay. Like they just kind of kept it the same. They kept it the same way. And that's okay. You can just make a movie. You don't have to try to like put these things into kids movies. and like, let's relax about that stuff. So I think the only way you could describe it is anti-woke was saying it was just like a movie we would have expected 10 or 20 years ago. It wasn't trying to kind of appeal to our political prejudices.
No, I know, but it's true, but we do kind of expect that we're going to get preached to. My wife and I were watching this Matt Damon movie a couple of weeks ago called like Downsizing, where they like shrink everybody down as a way to save the environment and the planet. And it seemed like an interesting concept, but then halfway through the movie, it's just a bunch of fucking Swedes and Swiss people talking about, oh, we're destroying the planet and all this global warming BS. And it's just kind of like, all right, can we please just enjoy ourselves, enjoy a movie without having to get the lecture, or can it at least be a little bit more subtle? But what I tell you, we watched this weekend and she had never seen it, was the original Blade Runner. Now there's a great movie that talks about like the end of world and dystopia and resources ending out on the planet without like making you think directly about it, make us feel something rather than preach to us or lecture to us. But John, we're out of time here. Where can people find out more about your work? Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
Hey, I'm like you. I'm kind of getting entrepreneurial, like as far as like my own thing. So I am on Substack. I think every listeners probably know I'm at Fee. Like fee.org is our company site. But I'm on Substack. jjmilt@gmail.com is the email. It's called The Take, and I publish there every day. And I'm like you. I watch every day to see new subscribers and to see that growing. It's kind of fun to see your audience grow. And like it is kind of like where I'm publishing. You'll get stuff that's always a little bit different too. Like it focus a lot on libertarian ideas and culture and things. But sometimes I go off script and write about politics, like I did today. Like it's kind of fun to have that flexibility. So The Take. That's Substack.
I read that, and I read fee.org every single day. It's a great place for news and a great place for true North libertarianism these days. In a world of authoritarianism, fee.org is your oasis in the desert. John, thank you for your time today. We appreciate you, brother.
Hey, thanks a lot, AP. You have a great week.
Thanks, you too. All right. Well, I got to give a big shout out real quick to Todd in Minnesota. He actually made our very first Rumble donation today. He dropped $5 in the digital tip jar. Big cheers. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate that. You're the man. All right, so speaking of economic education, I saw this story this week. Zimbabwe, the ones with like the dollar where it's like, $10 million is like worth 50 cents in American dollars. Well, apparently Zimbabwe is taking steps to stem inflation. They're introducing a gold-backed digital currency. What is that? A gold-backed digital currency? It's brand new. Yeah, Zimbabwe is going to launch a digital currency next month by introducing, quote, tokens that are backed by gold reserves and can be transferred between people and businesses as a form of payment. So they're trying to shore up their national currency problems. The Zimbabwe dollar, which has been, depreciating for years. They've had nothing but economic woes. The Bahamas, Jamaica, and Nigeria, they've already launched digital currencies backed by their central banks. The UK is moving closer to it. The US, the European Union looking at digital currencies. But this is the first one that I've heard where it's actually supposed to be a gold-backed currency. So people will be able to buy the tokens through the banks and make transactions using e-gold wallets or e-gold cards, fully backed by physical gold held by the bank. I don't know if I necessarily would trust them. What do you think? Would you trust them? I don't know. Not sure I would. But I mean, it's definitely better than a central bank digital currency that's not backed by anything. Don't you agree? And what is that going to do? It's going to create upward pressure on the price of gold, which means now is a great time to visit my friends over at Lear Capital. I want to give them a big shout out, and I want to say thank you to them because they have decided to continue their sponsorship of the Wake Up America show. And I'll tell you why. Well, it's not just because, they like Austin Peterson and they like the libertarian message, although that is a part of it. But Lear Capital specifically sponsors this show for that reason, and because they have been so grateful by the response that people like yourselves have had to Lear Capital. Yes, this relationship here is copacetic. I believe in gold. I believe in investing in precious metals. As a matter of fact, Stephanie and I had a conversation with one of their associates just this last weekend about investing in gold and silver, and we have started the process of acquiring some more precious metals. Because honestly, we're sick and tired of the stock market up and down, this buy the dip stuff. It's driving us crazy. We just want to put our money in something right now that's just going to hold value for a number of years. And maybe we never even have to cash out our gold coins. We can just give them to our kids one day, right? Call 1-800-885-2175. That's 1-800-885-2175. Just tell them, hey, Austin said, tell you hello, and I want to say thank you for supporting the Wake Up America show. Now, I know a lot of you who are watching right now, you don't know me that well. You're like, I'm not going to do something like that because I don't really know Austin well. That's fine. But there may be 1, 2, 3 of you here who are watching here today. You're like, you know what, Austin? I really appreciate what you've been doing, and I'm glad that Lear Capital is there supporting you, keeping the show financially stable. I want to say thank you today and get more information about gold and silver. They're sending you a free gold and silver information packet if you call them today. 1-800-885-2175. That's 1-800-885-2175. But if you are phone phobic, I get it. Visit LearAustin.com. That's LearAustin.com. Visit them today. Get your free gold and silver information packet. Find out more about investing in precious metals. If you do call them today, which I think is a great way to go, again, tell them that Austin sent you and that you're grateful that they are sponsoring the Wake Up America show. Again, that number right there on the screen, write it down, and we will be back with Warren Buffett's diet. It's terrible. And I have a list of the things that you probably drink on a daily basis that you probably shouldn't. It's making you fat like me. If I had the microphone next to my stomach, you would hear the truffle shuffle going on right now. It's very... We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Step right up, ladies and gents, to learn about the coolest president yet. He's not just any old prez, he's Calvin Coolidge, and boy oh boy is he different from the rest. He was quiet as a mouse, but don't you underestimate his power. He knew how to handle money, and he didn't waste an hour. He cut taxes, lowered debt, and balanced the budget with ease. No wonder the Roaring Twenties brought such prosperity and peace. But don't take my word for it. Grab a copy of Calvin the Coolest President and see for yourself. It's a children's book that'll make you smile and help your little ones learn about wealth. You can find it on Amazon Kindle or get your hands on a paperback at apforlibertyshop.com. So come on down and get yourself a copy of the book that's making waves all around town. You won't regret it, so get ready to be floored because Calvin Coolidge, well, folks, he really scored.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Have you been enjoying the show so far today? Good. Glad to hear from you. It's nice to see the audience just continues to grow and build every single day. We also added a brand new network that we're streaming to this morning called Boxcast. It's a new free speech streaming platform that we're glad to support, and we're looking forward to seeing that network grow as well. It's been really exciting to see all of our friends over on Rumble. Let's give Rumble a big shout out today. Glad to have you here. Oh, Rumble, big time. Love it. We got our very first donation on Rumble today. Haven't seen one of those before, but didn't even know you really could do that. So thank you very much to all of our Rumblers. Just ask you a favor, if you wouldn't mind. Make sure you click that like button on the stream and subscribe to the channel. We'd be very grateful. Todd in Minnesota, appreciate you very much. As well as Studio 314, I saw Quest Fanning's headed to the subway. Have a great day, Quest. We appreciate you very much. Sad to see you go, though. Rare Camellia is here with us today. All right, let's talk about the news. I read this article over the weekend, two articles that I thought went really well together. Warren Buffett may be a billionaire businessman in his 90s, but he eats like a child. The investor and Berkshire Hathaway CEO loves McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and Dairy Queen. He says that his indulgent diet has been the key to his happiness and long lifespan. What? He loves fast food, sugary sodas, and sweet treats. He eats burgers, hot dogs, and ice cream as his favorite foods. He eats McDonald's for breakfast every day, guzzles 5 cans, I thought it was 3, 5 cans of Coke every day, and demolishes cookies and chocolates. Of course, he owns See's Candies and Dairy Queen, but Coca-Cola and Kraft Heinz are also among his largest holdings in his $300 billion stock portfolio. Can you imagine having $300 billion? I mean,
Oh, God!
I know. I would be nice to have like a $500 million. I mean, I'd take a percentage of $1 billion. How about you? It just goes to show that most of us are poor, aren't we? Very poor. I can't believe it. This wealth inequality, it's killing me. Anyways, I found some quotes about Warren Buffett and his diet that I thought were very interesting. He says, I've gotten to 92 years old with the habits of a 6-year-old. He says, so far it's working. He says, I found everything that I like to eat by the time I was 6. Why should I fool around with all these other foods? And this next sentence, I think, really nails it. He says, if somebody told me I would live an extra year if I ate nothing but broccoli and a few other things all my life, I would say, take that year off the end of my life and let me eat what I like to eat. You know what? That's a really good point, Warren. He says, I think happiness makes an enormous amount of difference in terms of longevity, and I'm happier when I'm drinking Coke or eating hot fudge sundaes or hot dogs. You know what? I gotta say, I agree. I'm with you on that one, Warren, because Warren, when I think about giving up vices, for starting a family and, trying to have longevity, listen, I work out, I exercise, I eat salads here and there. Like we're trying to add a salad every day, and I'm trying not to, I don't eat a lot of candy or anything like that. I do like sodas and boy, I really just love beer, but I still like beer. But yeah, there's something about food that is to me, that is the thing that I don't think I'll ever let go. You got to be able to enjoy some food because there's so very few things that we get to enjoy in life. And yeah, this is my inner fat kid talking, my inner Warren Buffett, I'll call him. But yeah, I don't think I can ever really truly give up all of the foods that I really enjoy. What are some of your favorites? Number 3, he says, I'm 1/4 Coca-Cola. That's funny. If I eat 2,700 calories a day, a quarter of that is Coca-Cola. I drink at least 5 12-ounce servings. I do it every day. I have 3 Cokes during the day and 2 at night. Oh, I got to give it up for that. That's a lot of Coke. I really like this next one where he says, I checked the actuarial tables and the lowest death rate is among 6-year-olds. So I decided to eat like a 6-year-old. It's the safest course I can take. Very funny, Warren. He says, I follow a very simple rule when it comes to food. If a 3-year-old doesn't eat it, I don't eat it. Broccoli, asparagus, and Brussels sprouts look to me like Chinese food crawling around on a plate. What? I like broccoli, asparagus, and Brussels sprouts. What about you guys? Really? People think Brussels sprouts has got a bad rap. Put a little Parmesan cheese on it and a little garlic and butter. And honestly, I mean, you got a stew going, baby. 5 points to whoever can guess what that quote was from. He says, during his meeting, Charlie and I will consume enough Coke, fudge, and peanut brittle to satisfy the weekly caloric needs of an NFL lineman. Long ago, we discovered a fundamental truth. There's nothing like eating carrots and broccoli when you're really hungry and want to stay that way. Yeah, that's true. Whenever I eat healthy, I always still feel hungry afterwards, right? Number 9, he says, when I compare drinking Coca-Cola to something that would sell me at Whole Foods, I don't see smiles on the faces of people at Whole Foods. That's very funny. Yeah, no, I very rarely ever go to Whole Foods anyway, but when I do, yeah. Do you ever see the people at Whole Foods smiling? Do they look happy? No, they look like they need an enema. At number 10, I like eating the same thing over and over again. I could eat a ham sandwich every day for 50 days in a row for breakfast. He says, I don't eat any Chinese food. Now I got to give you a boo for that. If necessary, serve me rice and I'll just move it around on my plate and I'll go back to my room afterwards and eat peanuts. This was Buffett's response when Bill and Melinda Gates asked what he liked to eat ahead of a group vacation to China. Buffett made sure to speak up after suffering through a disastrous sushi dinner a few years earlier. And so he was served hamburgers, French fries, and cherry Coke throughout the trip. It's hilarious. But I mean, how do you not like Chinese food? Now, obviously, Chinese food is not the same as American Chinese food. So when you go to China, right, like what kind of Chinese food do you like? I like Chinese food, but Chinese food is not just one thing. There's different provinces, and every province sort of has a different take on Chinese food. Sichuan is really good. I like it because it's a lot more spicy. Wuhan, you got to watch out for because of the diseases. Just kidding. Don't pull me down off of YouTube for that. Okay. Somebody asked, one Patriot listener. Good morning, Patriot listener. He says, how do donations flow through on Rumble? Why YouTube takes 30%? Honestly, I don't know. I'll let you know tomorrow, Patriot listener, because I'm going to go check on that donation that Todd in Minnesota did. And he's, I doubt it's going to be as high as YouTube because YouTube's is pretty high. However, if you want to donate to the show and you want to make sure that 100% of it goes to the Wake Up America show, just remember wakeupamericashow.com. My website has a support page. If you click the support button, you can actually just make a one-time donation. If you wanted to donate $5 and 100% of it goes to the show, you can do it at the wakeupamericashow.com/support page. So if you head over there, that donation helps us to keep us free and independent of mainstream media, and it ensures that I am cancel proof, because no matter what, even if Rumble or YouTube or Facebook or whatever, like Twitch canceled us, even if they take us down, I can always stream my show directly, at least to my wakeupamericashow.com website. So no matter what, the show will always exist over there, and it's possible to watch it there as well. So All right, let's continue here. So yeah, those were Warren Buffett's quotes about his unhealthy lifestyle. But then I read this other article on Fox News about the absolute worst drinks for your health, according to nutritionists. And of course, alcohol is high on the list. But there are several beverages that experts say may be detrimental to your overall health. This is what they said. Fox News Digital polled several nutritionists on this topic, and found out what are some of the worst drinks really for you. Energy drinks and pre-workout drinks, which if you're drinking anything but water when you work out, probably not a good idea, or just something with like micronutrients in it. But excess stimulants, right, can lead to increased blood pressure, stress, and compromised sleep, since they contain excess caffeine and stimulants, right? So headaches, nausea, any of those energy drinks or pre-workout drinks, I mean, to me, those things look like liquid poison on the outside. They might as well just say liquid poison, because there's no way that those things are good for you. But I mean, if you've got problems with your blood pressure and you're drinking those energy drinks, not a good idea. Anyways, pre-workout and energy drinks also contain like artificial sweeteners and flavors, which disrupt gut health and brain health. The supplement industry is also notoriously unregulated, which leads to contamination with toxins or banned substances that are detrimental to our health, says one nutritionist. Instead of pre-workout or energy drinks, they recommend opting for coffee or matcha tea, which I know a lot of people are not big on matcha, but if you put a lot of sugar in it, it's actually not too bad. But then again, that kind of negates the point. However, coffee, not bad. Please, not Crystal Light, says Maria. Very funny. That's funny. Sweet alcoholic cocktails. Yeah, you probably knew that was going to be on the list, right? So the combination of alcohol and fructose syrup are not good for your liver, right? That's the organ where the liquids are processed, right? So it compromises the liver's ability to filter out toxins, and it hampers the conversion of fructose to glucose, right? So as a consequence, you can't detox very well, and you end up storing that excess fructose as fat. So that causes a rise in triglycerides, which is a harmful blood lipid, and it's one of the causes of a fatty liver, which my doctor said that I've kind of started to develop a little bit of a fatty liver. So Austin, time to back off of the sweet, fruity drinks. I don't drink many of those girly drinks anyway, but my problem, I think, is just the beer. Traditional soda, yeah, it's bad for your health, obviously. Warren Buffett lived to 90, sure, but not all of us probably going to be as lucky as he is, right? So opting for seltzer or sparkling water and just add a squeeze of lime, right? Lemon or orange juice for flavors, not a bad idea, right? So according to the USDA's dietary guidelines, people ages 2 and older should limit their take of added sugars to less than 10% of total daily calories consumed. So if you're following a 2,000 calorie diet, that means no more than 200 calories from added sugar, or about 12 teaspoons, which, if you really think about it, 12 teaspoons is quite a lot, right? Sarah Palacios is over in the stream. Good morning, Sarah. Nice to see you. Happy Monday. That's why I usually order a ranch water. What in the heck is a ranch water? I've never heard of a ranch water. Somebody explain that to me. Talioan says coffee and water, that's all anyone needs. I'm with you right there. Iced tea. This one was crazy to me. Not only does iced tea contain added sugar, but bottled or commercially prepared teas may have the same amount of sugar as soda. A high consumption of sweetened drinks such as iced tea have been shown to be associated with the development of metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. Not good. Definitely don't want that. Drinks sweetened with agave nectar. Have you seen these at your local gas station? The problem is that people got confused into thinking that like, oh, it says natural on this one, or it's organic or whatever. It's not high fructose corn syrup. It's agave nectar. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but the fact is that calories are calories, and so fructose is fructose. Whether it's corn sugar, high fructose corn syrup, or whether it's just fructose golly and agave nectar, sugar, and your body's going to process it the same way. It's going to turn it into fat. Agave syrup, people are like, oh, well, it's agave, so it's natural, it's not refined sugar. Well, it's still just because you replace that with traditional sweeteners like table sugar or honey doesn't matter, because you're still going to get the same amount of calories, right? Agave is it's just high fructose, just like high fructose corn syrup. It just comes from a different plant, right? It can contain 55 to 90% fructose, and that's higher than the amount of fructose in high fructose corn syrup. I know. I know it's no fun, but people all love to hate on high fructose corn syrup. It's like, oh, I'm drinking agave nectar. It's not high fructose corn syrup, right? And it's like, listen, you're actually getting more sugar with your agave nectar than you are with your weirdo hippie drink than I'm getting with my awesome GMO produced high fructose corn syrup, right? Anyways, if you're watching us over on Rumble this morning, good morning. Nelson is back. Nice to see you here, Nelson. Todd in Minnesota is joining us here with us as well as one Patriot listener, and Cries of Treason here with us today. Kermode Bear, Blue Trike over on Rumble. Nice to see a nice big audience over there as well. And you guys are competing with YouTube today in terms of listeners. Sarah Palacios, did you tell us? Ranch water is mineral water, lime, and tequila. That actually sounds kind of good. Lovely. I would drink that. That sounds really good. Sarah, I'm going to have you make that for me sometime. Okay, so don't drink this. Don't drink this. Also, stop being such a stop doing that until it's no fun. Juice cocktails. So remember when we always were drinking orange juice growing up? Like, oh, it's healthy. The orange juice, the orange lobby is always like, oh yes, we'd pay the senator to tell you that oranges are good for you. Everybody drink orange juice. That's just full of sugar, right? And the cocktails are even worse. Sometimes juices blended with additives get slapped with the word cocktail on their side, right? So, for example, whenever you are, if you have like a urinary tract infection, they tell you to drink cranberry juice. Well, if you just drink cranberry juice, it doesn't taste very good, right? So people are like, oh, well, I'll just drink cranberry juice cocktail. Well, the cranberry juice cocktail tastes way better because it's got way more sugar in it and it's got far less cranberry juice. But you should be drinking just cranberry juice, but cranberry juice itself doesn't taste good. I know.
God! No,
I know.
God, please, no!
Don't shoot the messenger.
No!
Greta, shut up. Shut up, Greta. We don't need to hear from you. Added sugar, it's unnecessary. It adds extra calories to your days. And of course, artificially sweetened drinks, right? Another ones that have like aspartame and sucralose. Apparently, they disturb the microbiome and damage our gut health. I've never heard of a thin person drinking Diet Coke, honestly.
We are led by very, very stupid people. Very, very stupid people.
Aspartame and sucralose disturb the microbiome and damage our gut health. That's harmful to our overall health, since the gut, this is according to nutritionists, plays a key role in many of our body systems, such as our immune health, hormone recycling, serotonin production, and nutrient absorption. But stevia or monk fruit sweetened drinks are great sugar alternatives that are also gut friendly. I'm just going to come right out here and say it. Stevia made me poop my pants. So I'm not eating anything or drinking anything with stevia in it. Yeah. Don't eat stevia if you got gut issues, because I thought I was gonna fart, but it was poop. What can I say? It was poop. Sorry, it's Monday morning. Speaking of poop, frappuccinos. Apparently consuming frappuccinos simply aren't worth it for your health, but you knew that already, right? Fats, saturated fats, creams, sugar, and fat tastes delicious, but it leads to excess fat storage due to the rise in hormone insulin, which is our fat storage hormone. Right? These sweet fats hijack our brain circuits, making us want more and more. They also drive up your insulin, leading to insulin resistance and higher lipid levels, and ultimately metabolic syndrome. Also, frozen lattes, not the best, may contain more sugar than a can of Coke, but you knew that already. You knew that wasn't going to be good for you. All right, one last segment before we go. Sending smiley emojis. They now mean different things to different people. Yes, you thought that you were sending the Zoomer in your office a clever little response to their text message, but you were actually coming on to them. They thought that you were interested in them. No, yes, we know the jokes about the eggplant emojis. Everybody knows what that means, but maybe the emoji that you're sending doesn't mean what you think it means. It means different things to different people. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself, or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there was
wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive. And if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
Well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian. And
always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com. Hope you're feeling well today. Have you guys been enjoying the nice, fast internet? It's great, right? We've actually got internet today. We're streaming in full high definition. I don't think we had any problems. Any stream shutdowns, slowdowns, everything went fantastic. I have solved one of the biggest problems that the Wake Up America Show has been plagued with since the very beginning, and I got to give a big shout out to my friend Scott Fawn for helping to make it happen. So if you don't know Scott, he is a big political power player here in the state of Missouri, and of course he graciously donates this space to us so that we can do the Wake Up America Show, and through his help, we're managed to get our internet connection fixed. So another big shout out and applause for Scott Fawn. If you know him, ladies and gentlemen, we owe him a big favor and a debt of gratitude. If you're wondering what the hell is that over there on the screen right now, I had to talk about this because this just triggered people so much. Now, here's the thing. I'm a capitalist, okay? Love Donald Trump, hate Donald Trump, worship Donald Trump at the altar of Trump, what have you. It's all money to me, right? I like Trump sometimes. Other times I'm kind of like, what are you doing? And I'm not a fan of whatever he's doing at that time. I voted for him in the last election, but I have to say that this product over at AP for Liberty shop has got people talking more than anything. Now, here's the deal. I had these in my shop because I was like, oh, this is kind of cute, fun little Trump toilet brush, right? And I thought, oh, maybe some people will like it. People liked it a lot, and they sold out like immediately. And I couldn't even fulfill the orders for the customers that really wanted them, and I couldn't find any more. So it took me months to actually find a place where I could get these. It took me then weeks to get them here, and I could only get 10. And I've already sold like 4 or 5 of them. I think I maybe have 5 of these left. Here's the thing. If you love Trump, I think it's just kind of a cool gift to have. Or if you know somebody who loves Trump, I think that they would actually like it and appreciate it. If you hate Trump, then you could have him cleaning out your toilet bowls and then it's just something funny. So here's the thing. I've got only 5 of these left. So head over to apforlibertyshop.com to get yourself the Donald Trump toilet brush. I promise you that whoever you give this to as a gift is going to laugh. It's a great white elephant gift too, I would say. And just remember, all of our shipping within the United States domestically here is free. So the price that you see over at AP for Liberty Shop is the price that you're going to get at AP for Liberty Shop. So make sure you head over there. And if you want one of these Donald Trump toilet brushes, go and get yourself one. And again, the price that you see is what you get, unless you live in like Australia or something like that. But everybody loves these things, except for people who hate them. And the people who hate them post about how they hate them underneath the post, and then they drive up the engagement for it, which results in more sales of them. So, but here's the thing. Once they're sold out, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any more. And there are Joe Biden ones that exist, but I can't get them because everybody wants them. So apparently Donald Trump toilet brushes are a little less popular than the Joe Biden ones, but Joe Biden is the president right now. So anyways, if you like what you see over there and you're like, hey, that's hilarious, I want that, go to apforlibertyshop.com. I've only got 5 left. Buy a couple of them. One for your friends, one for you, and one for your dad or your uncle who loves Donald Trump. See, just the look on their face. Imagine getting a gift like that. What is somebody's face going to be like? Head over to apforlibertyshop.com and get yourself a Donald Trump. Well, I wouldn't say, don't use it as a toothbrush, but it would be a good gag gift for yourself. All right. And I've only got a few of them, so I imagine they'll probably be gone by the end of the day. All right. Well, when is a smiley face not a smiley face? Behind the yellow, wide-eyed emoji's grin lurks an intergenerational minefield, writes the Wall Street Journal. It's a tad hyperbolic, perhaps. Now, the ubiquitous emoji means happy, right? Good job, or any other positive sentiments, right? The smiling emoji, right? For people who are over the age of 30, right? But for teens and 20-somethings, a smiley face popping up in a text or an email is seen as patronizing or passive-aggressive. Get this, right? The welcome smile for 21-year-old Hafizat Bishi, he works in a Brooklyn digital media firm. That'll probably tell you something right there. He was taken aback when a coworker greeted her with a bright, smiley face. For Bishi, the welcome didn't seem warm, but dismissive, because she sees the images conveying a kind of a side-eye smile, not a genuine one. What is a smile, not a smile, right? I had to remember they are older because I use it sarcastically, Miss Bishi said. There are so many emojis, and Generation Z can never take things in a simple manner, right? There's always something lurking behind, right? Anna Maxa says, do they have a Hillary Clinton one? You know what? That's a good question. But you know what? Nobody talks about Hillary Clinton anymore. So I don't know. I will look and see if they have Hillary Clinton ones. And if I find them, I will get them. The communication confusion doesn't end with a smiley face. People of different ages take different meanings from lots of the little drawings that we substitute for words. The rise of emoji use at work, and I use them now at work as well. So whenever I send out emails for AP for Liberty Shop, I use emojis. I use them in my videos, my shorts, for example. I use them in descriptions of videos, and I use emojis for all of them, right? And, people, if you're over 30, we generally use emojis that the way that, to convey what the image is always meant to convey. But younger digital natives kind of ascribe sarcastic meanings to a lot of them, or they use them for shorthand for an entirely different thought. So the skull or the crossbones, right, means death or hazard to many adults. But younger people actually say that means laughing extremely hard, as in I'm laughing so hard that I'm dying. Right. So if you send a young kid a skull or crossbones, that means you're laughing, you're dead. Right. But if you're over 30, that means that's bad, right? That's death, or look out, that's a hazard, right? This is a funny one. So since graduated from the University of Michigan, Ranganath Kathawat has spent a lot of time texting with his mom and younger brother. As their pandemic text chains got more active, he says a disconnect was soon evident. Why did you send the crown emoji when your brother sent his text scores? He says his Gen X mother wanted to know. He explained since the crown signifies a king, which is positive, and meant his brother was doing well. His mother said that emojis used by your son's generation are a whole new language and she misinterprets it all the time. She says she's just more likely to pick up the phone, which cuts down on confusion, but the emojis are like, what does that mean? One 19-year-old, Rachel Eliza, said she spends a lot of time explaining to her parents why their emoji selections to her are humorously off base. So the upset emoji of a frowning face, now that means frustrated, right? And that's how her father uses it. But it actually reads more sexual for Gen Z. It's almost like a pained sigh because somebody is so attractive. So when you see the frowny face, if you send a frowny face to someone who's under the age of 30, that means that, oh, you're so sexy, I just can't take it. Oh, frowny face. Okay, that's enough weirdness. It's time to go. It's 9 a.m. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Wake Up America show. If you enjoy the show, make sure you click that like button before you leave. And if you're not subscribed to the channel that you're watching us on, it's time to do that. To subscribe to us on Rumble or on Facebook or on, we're not on Twitch anymore, but we are on YouTube or on Voxcast, the brand new freedom-loving network. Make sure you click like and subscribe to us over there as well so we can help spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. I got to give a big shout out to Rare Camellia, Doug H., Chris Morrill, Steffi P., Anna Maxa, Andy Opperman, Studio 314, Maria Krabs, Cheeky Mare, Sarah Palacios, of course, all of our friends over on Rumble, Todd in Minnesota as well, One Patriot Listener, Nelson65. Nice to see you all here today, and to anybody who might be seeing us over on Boxcast. You guys have a great day, great week, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Bye, guys.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.